Well, good evening, everybody. It's great to see y'all. Hey, yeah, boy, let's start right off. You know, Rebecca Felter jumped in and said she's just stopping by real quick. She's can't stay because she's shopping. She's out shopping. Understand that? I understand that. And but she said I shared you out. So hey, everybody follow suit with Rebecca. Share it out, would you? Oh, you'll see me adjusting a few times tonight. Old tailbone giving me grief today. Must have some weather coming in or something. But, and then heart sight. Oh, you're a sweetheart, Eileen. Great to see you. And there's me, Dibble. It's me again. Yeah, it's still you. It's still you, me, Dibble. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome to see you folks in the house. And Kimberly Ferris just came in the door. That's awesome. Great to see you. The so yeah, boy, tonight's topic. I I have to say, I'll apologize to anybody that's going. Now wait a minute. I saw this video get. I got a notification. This video went out for live stream to start at 7 p.m. Central Time. But then now it says it's 5 p.m. Central Time. Here's what happened. A dear friend of mine, and I'm not going to use their name because they're already, I mean, they're such a humble character to start with. I was testing my new StreamYard teams, and I gave them, just for one time, gave them administrative rights to my StreamYard to help me out today to get my stream posted, right? To get the stream out and posted so that it's pre-scheduled. And they know how I set things up. And they said, I can do that. I can do that. And they did. They did an excellent job, except they missed one thing. They forgot that Sty Times starts at 5 p.m., not 7 p.m. So they put in their post that the show would be at 7 p.m. So when I realized that, it was about an hour before the show. I scrambled, went in, edited, changed the starting time. So there may be some people that don't show up because they think it's going to go live at 7. I feel bad. I feel really bad, but for those folks. But this individual, I feel really good. They did their best, and I have to say, like I said, they did a very good job. That they did their best, and they did a good job. So Kayla Ferris, she's slid on in the house too. And we've got TM in the house. It's great to see you guys. It's awesome. It's always great to see you. TM said, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving planned. So do I. So do I. And I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. All of you American folks. Now, I'll tell you what, I don't care where you live in the world. Oh, what the heck? Everybody needs a good turkey day. So don't call it Thanksgiving, call it Turkey Day and celebrate it also. I don't care if you're in China, for crying out loud. Everybody needs a good turkey day, you know? Yeah, yeah. Me Devil says, but it's 11 p.m. Yeah, I know, Me Devil. You got to rub that in, don't you? I love my European fans. You folks are diehards. The Me Devil doesn't do Thanksgiving. Yeah, Thanksgiving is kind of just a U.S. thing. Canada and I guess England it's kind of its own version of Thanksgiving, and I don't know. See, and certain holidays like Thanksgiving, I through my life I celebrated it just for the fact that it gave a good excuse to get the family together, all together at once. We only get to do that 2-3 times a year, and um, and then the food. uh, Everybody wants to get so serious about the meaning of Thanksgiving and that. And actually, and I learned that when I was a little tyke in school. I also heard it from my grandparents. Thanksgiving wasn't, you know, yeah, our original here in the US, the original pilgrims were very thankful in this time of year when they were helped out by the local Native Americans and some of their crops had actually survived. And so they gathered together and feasted just to reflect on how thankful they were they made it to that point. It's like my one grandfather said, a teacher in school had said the same thing, is them folks didn't have a heck of a lot to be thankful for. They were just doggone good and thankful they had something to eat. That was very true. That was very true. Me Devil says, I have never had pumpkin pie. Oh, my Lord. Oh, I would. Oh. See, now, if you've never had it, when things run out, if you can't get pumpkin pie, me Devil won't suffer a bit. Oh, I don't care they're out of pumpkin pie. I've never ever tasted it, so what do I care? You know, just as long as they don't run out of my favorite pie, I'm good with it, right? So tonight's topic, when things run out, that came from a viewer recommendation, and I want everybody to know you can feel free to email me at sty.north@yahoo.com. I believe I'm going to throw it up in the banner below me. There we go. There's my email. Feel free to send me any suggestions for topics, because I consider them all. Doesn't mean I do every one of them, but I do consider every single topic. And TM, be careful. Don't say Harris. Ferris is good. Hunting and stuff with J&J. It's great to see you, buddy. So, and I thought, well, tonight's title, When Things Run Out, will attract two different types of people that sometimes won't show up for a general topic, but for this one, I thought they might show up or watch it after it's ran. The people, yeah, but the thing is one group of people see when things run out and they relate it to current affairs. Okay, we're going to talk about that, about current affairs and when things run out. Another group of people see it as, oh, wow, yeah, when things run out, it's time to be prepared. Preppers, we're going to prep. Yeah. So those two groups of people that are the ones that are concerned about current affairs and those that want to prep for possible future affairs. Hopefully tonight's topic will give them a little extra insight from my observations over the years and things I've learned and been told about how to deal with when things run out. Okay, we're going to turn this clock way back, even before my time, actually. Okay, my parents were born right on the tail end of the Great Depression here in the U.S. My grandparents lived through it, and they were young adults was starting families. They were starting their families and their careers, and the Great Depression hit. Well, I used to, oh man, I was so interested in their stories about what it was like when things ran out. Because during the Great Depression, many things did run out. You just couldn't get certain things. My grandparents talked about how they couldn't get coffee, that coffee was such an impossible food stuff to get your hands on. So they would make chicory coffee, or they'd make coffee out of acorns. They came up with alternatives. My grandfather said that for quite a while they actually drank coffee that was made out of roasted barley. Anything they could roast to get a coffee-like flavor from. That's what they did. But every time I asked him, well, during the Great Depression, there were so many things you say you could not get. But how'd you get by? And he says, because really, when things run out, guess what people do? They find alternatives for those things they can no longer get. You can't get toilet paper anymore? Well, they reverted to Sears catalogs. Some people never reverted to toilet paper. They just kept using the old Sears catalog. I can remember those days when I was a little tyke out on the farm. Oh yeah, you didn't find a roll of toilet paper out in the outhouse. You found local phone books, the Sears Roebuck, and the Monkey Ward's catalogs. That's what they used. And that was a carryover from the Depression. My grandparents, it was just habit. Now, my grandmother, she had toilet paper, and she'd take her personal roll of toilet paper with her out to the toilet, you know. But everybody knew, even my grandpa, you don't touch her toilet paper. No. If she accidentally left the roll out in the outhouse, you come running to the house with it before anybody could get their hands on it. Grandma, you forgot this in the outhouse. And oh, she'd praise you, she'd love you for days for doing that, because it was very valuable to her. But no, you're not allowed to use any. There's a catalog for you out there. Well, so society during the Great Depression, they really learned what it was when things ran out. Because so many things did. So many things were not available. Well, then time goes on, and then the World War, the big war, World War II. Well, World War I happened prior to that, and times were tough. But World War I actually was firing up our industrial age in the United States at the time. So people were doing fairly well, even with the war, because they were earning money and everybody seemed to be working. And it was the Depression that really hurt, because people had gotten used to having things, and then all of a sudden they're not, just things ran out. Same thing happened in World War II. Went into the war. Our nation was pretty prosperous. Everybody, from the little guy to the big guy, everybody was doing pretty doggone good. And then World War II come along. And it's not that people were financially doing poorly during World War II. Things just ran out, because so many things had to be shipped overseas. Everything from foodstuffs to things that you wouldn't suspect. It's like women. You couldn't buy nylons anywhere. Couldn't buy them. Silk stockings, not available, because all the women were donating. They were actually, it was considered donation, but in actuality, it was morally mandated. You turned all your silk stockings, nylons over to the government because they were used for packing the charges for cannons, and they became very scarce, very scarce. My grandmother had reflected that she felt guilty through the whole war because she held back one pair of silk stockings. She said, but everything else was gone, and you couldn't replace them. They ran out. They ran out. A lot of things made out of rubber also ran out. And they had rubber drives go around and try to get anything made out of rubber, right? My grandmother used to talk about she couldn't even buy nipples for the milk bottles for babies, or the babies. And they would feed newborn calves through a milk bottle. And she said, and we did that until all of the nipples were so wore out to the point where they couldn't use them to feed the calves anymore. And she would make a makeshift nipple out of denim. And she said they leaked like mad all over, and the calves could still drink through it. Because you couldn't buy those big milk bottle nipples that they use for feeding the calves. They didn't exist. All that rubber was for the war. Things ran out. They just ran out. There were a lot of things made out of iron you couldn't purchase because the steel industry was all geared to the war, not to the citizenry. So those things ran out. What do you do when they run out? Well, my grandfather said what you do is Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Lori J. And to everybody out there. Hi, Mystic Bunny. Thanks for coming over. The thing is my grandparents said what you do is what during those periods of time was you came up with alternatives to the things you ran out of. And I can remember my grandmother saying that her mother had never gotten to the point where they bought grocery items. Everything they ate, everything that had to do with food came off of their farm. So they never felt that pinch that the people in town felt, because in town you couldn't get those things. There's a lot of foodstuffs you couldn't get. She recalled when they had a flour shortage, you go to town and they'd only allow you to buy per family a small 5-pound bag of flour. That's it. That's all you can get. And I can't remember what she said. It was like per week. Well, these people were used. You didn't buy bread in the grocery store back in those days. You made it at home. Well, that would never get a family through the whole week. So they had to come up with another way because it all ran out. Well, her mother, she had a mill in the house, and she would grind their own wheat and make their own whole wheat flour. She said we never went without bread or baked goods or anything because her mother would make their own flour. They could get their hands on wheat, but they couldn't get it on pre-ground flour. So her mother made a lot of extra pin money by selling a few pounds of flour every week to her local neighbors. Yep. All you had to do was come up with an alternative way when other things run out. They used to talk about during the war when they started rationing certain things. Now, I see Mystic Bunny is set out there in the comments. I have a tire retread ration book that was my grandfather's during the war. He was a traveling maintenance man for Sinclair gas stations. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. My grandfather, as a farmer at that time, they owned a fairly large farm. My grandfather, a lot of people in town, they lived near a fairly good-sized town. And the people in town did not like the farmers because the farmers, you might get fuel ration coupons for gas in your vehicle, but it provided you enough gas that you were driving about a tenth as much as you used to before the war. Farmers, they got all kinds of fuel ration coupons, but they got the same, a little higher, but not a lot higher, gas coupons for their private vehicle, their family vehicle. For a farm truck, they get like double the coupons. But where they really got the fuel coupons was for the equipment on the farm, tractors, combines, things of that nature that were required to be able to plant and harvest. Thing was, my grandfather said, don't get caught putting any of that gas in that farm truck or in that family car. You had to go to the station with cans and fill those for your farm equipment. And he said, and don't ever let anybody catch you putting that canned gas into your personal vehicles. Yeah, me Dibbles talking about the rationing over there in the UK. Yeah, yeah, very little, very little, very little. They had coffee rationing. Boy, coffee ran out for the general public. And it was, most of it had to do with they were shipping most of that coffee overseas to our troops. Any coffee we could get our hands on. Now you got to keep in mind during that war, so many merchant ships were being sunk that a lot of goods never even made it to port. So that caused things to run out. And then it, oh, well, hello, Cindaloo. It's so great to see you. So there were all kinds of factors that were causing this. There was supply chain problems back then. There was the issue of having to feed and support our troops overseas when you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people involved in that war, and you got to feed them all. That's a lot of food going overseas. Now, a lot of those people would typically be back here in the U.S. at home, planting and harvesting all that food they eat all the time. They're over there fighting, trying to just stay alive, but they got to be fed. So your workforce goes down, all the other issues, and they can't keep up with the demand. So things run out. And I see TM saying that now the farmers have their own tank and gas pumps and buy gas by the tanker truck full. Well, yeah, but it's relative. It all makes sense. It's relative. Back then, in those days, even in the 60s and 70s, I lived it. I knew it. well, we had one branch of our family tree was all farmers. And we did have one large farmer in the bunch. He was big time. He had over 4,000 acres of wheat ranch in North Dakota. He was rolling in flour, I guess you could say, because he was a huge farmer, huge operation. But everybody we knew and all the farmers we knew, the average farm was anywhere from 180 acres to 600 acres. Those were the family farms. And only about 25% of that land base was actually put to use under the plow. So they just didn't consume the fuel. But now they say your average family farm in the United States exceeds 2,000 acres. And over 60% of it gets plowed and planted. So it's all relative. Yeah, they use so much more fuel now, but they're growing exponentially huge amounts of food compared to what they did on the smaller farms back in the day. So yeah, it's understanding that farmers have these huge bulk tanks and they're getting 1,000 gallons delivered every week and during planting and harvest. I've got a couple of farmer friends that really fuel kills them. Yeah. Hey, Gemma's Journey Grace, great to see you, girl. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, so as you can see, in the past, we've had to learn how to do without, because once in a while, they experienced when things would run out. Things would run out. Times seemed good, then they weren't so good, and things ran out. And it's tough because our generations, even mine, even though I was right after all of that, I came in right after that and heard all the stories of how rough it was and the way things were. And even with that experience, none of us have been through that like they did. None of us have. I've had people say, well, yeah, you remember when such and such, you remember when the fuel, yeah. No, little isolated things running out. It lasted a day, it lasted a week, it lasted for 4 months, and then it was done and over. These people lived for years through that, where things had just run out. Yeah, me devil, every once in a while. Yeah. The shit hits the fan and people, what do? They come up with ways to deal with and work around those things that ran out. It's not the end of the world. It might be the end of the world as you knew it at the time, because you had to change so many things. But it really isn't the end of the world. Yeah, TM, you're not kidding. The number of bushels per acre nowadays compared to back then it's so dramatic the change. Yeah. The farmers from back then, if they could get the per bushel per acre, number of bushels per acre off of the land they had back in the day, they'd all be rich men. I can remember my grandfather saying, looking at current, in the 1970s, saying, current corn harvest levels, bushels per acre, exceeded what he could get per acre by 5 to 25 bushels per acre. Well, he quit farming in the 60s. It was only like 10 years had gone by. And now it's right off the charts compared to what they used to harvest. Yeah. Production has gotten crazy. But we need to be prepared for when things run out. Yeah. We're going to talk about that right here after halftime. Don't go anywhere, folks. This is just introducing to everybody, my great channel members. Love these folks. It only takes less than 1 minute, and I'll be right back with you. There you go. Some awesome channel members there. I always got to give them a shout out. And I'll tell you what, when we're talking about when things run out, we can talk about the past and we can talk about things that could come. You know, we could have a major crisis of some kind. All of a sudden, there's a huge national or natural disaster that affects the whole nation. Or there's so many things that can happen around the world, dramatic crises that would make things run out. One thing that I always got kind of a kick out of is when I learned that the bananas that we get in the grocery store, right, that we eat, are all hybrid bananas. They're all hybrid bananas, the ones we eat. There's bananas out there, but you don't want to eat them like the banana we eat, because they're full of black seeds. They're just packed full of black seeds, because that's a natural heirloom banana. Well, over the years, they bred the seeds right out of them bananas. So now when you slice a banana and you look at it, you can see those little tiny white seeds, sometimes brown. Doesn't have them big old hard black seeds in them anymore. If there was a blight, a banana blight, they said, that was specific to the hybrid banana, guess what? Those things are going to run out. Bananas don't grow everywhere in the world. And if they got the wrong blight hit them, all of a sudden none of us get bananas. At least the bananas we know. And natural bananas aren't as sweet and they're not as tender. Now plantains are the closest to a heirloom banana that you usually see in the grocery store. And I like plantains if they're sliced the long way rather thin. Throw them on the barbecue. Grill them. They're pretty good. But they got seeds in. They're just, and they got a slight banana flavor. Not that rich banana flavor you get from a good old Chiquita banana, you know. Something happens to our bananas, guess what? Those things run out. Yeah, can happen, can happen. So let's look at today. Now, like I said, none of us on here lived through the Depression. None of us lived through the Great War. None of us went through the days of when things run out until now. Now we're getting a good taste of it, right? So the virus thing happens. Now, as an old man, I couldn't believe it. Now, I seen it happen at Y2K when we hit the year 2000. They said every computer in the world's going to crash. I was a financial manager at the time of a very large organization, many, many, many millions of dollars, all managed through our computers. No hard copy record kept except what we printed off, but nobody was keeping a hard copy by hand. And all of a sudden the Y2K thing come up and everybody said, anything that's computerized is going to crash. Now I got a kick out of that because they said anything, your calculators, your watches, your cars, gas pumps, they're all going to crash the minute January 1st comes. Well, we were out of gas up here in northern Wisconsin for almost 5 days because the 3 days before January 1st, everybody was at the gas station filling every possible container. I would say 60% of all gas sold in those 3 days went into containers that were technically against the law to have gasoline in. I saw people with milk jugs. I saw people with old bleach bottles. I saw people with 5-gallon buckets, plastic buckets with snap-on lids, filling those full of gas. They filled anything and everything they could with gas. And then we had gas stations gouging. They were charging $7, $8 a gallon on the very last day when they were selling off the last of their gas. Now, many of them switched their pumps, the titles on their pumps, and said, we're sold out on regular gasoline, we're sold out on medium grade, all we got left is premium. And they were full of baloney, their tanks were full. And they sold all that gasoline at premium price plus the inflation of it until every tank was empty in our area. Nobody had gas. All the gas stations closed. Big signs at all of them. Out of gas, out of gas. They all sold. So when things run out, everybody was in a total panic, right? In less than a week, all those gas stations were back open. They were all full of gas again. And because nothing crashed. Nothing crashed. Banks were fine because they even closed the banks for the couple days after January 1st because they thought for sure everything's going to crash. Everybody, my people, were mad at me because they showed up to work on the 2nd of January to find ledger books and boxes of pencils and a nice electric pencil sharpener on each of their desks. And they come storming my office, 21 of them. What is going on? We thought for sure you're just going to send us home because we can't use the computers because of the Y2K. And I said, every one of you are accountants. You better know how to keep a ledger. All of you still have your own accounts. You take the last print-offs, transfer the bottom lines to those ledgers and go right back to business as usual, except you don't type it in, you write it down. So they didn't get to take time off for a crisis that really didn't exist. But everybody panicked because the gas ran out. Well, now here with the current virus, we all remember And I could not understand it. This huge run on toilet paper. Man, everybody went nuts. I went over to the Walmart and I'm watching carts and carts stacked totally full of toilet paper. And it's one person, one household buying enough toilet paper for the next 6 or 8 years. Now, I don't know what these people are doing with that toilet paper because that's about 2 years, almost 2 years ago that started. There's no way they used up all that toilet paper. My son gave me a pack of toilet paper because he went and he bought a few packs just because what if? And he said, I overbought. He says, I'm going to give you a pack of my toilet paper because he said, I bought 3 years worth. There's no way that's going to last 3 years, right? Well, now I bet you he'd like to have that pack back. That pack lasted me 2 full years. I just put the last roll in the bathroom and I went and I bought myself an 8-roll pack. He bought one of those 24-roll packs. Well, I'm a single guy. I go through about a roll of toilet paper a month. So 24 rolls, that's 2 years worth of toilet paper. You got to keep in mind, I spent the last 6 months down in camp. So I did have some company here, so they did use a little more toilet paper than I would have. But they kept asking me, people kept asking me, Sty, why didn't you go buy a bunch of toilet paper like everybody else? I said, there's a couple reasons. I said, for one reason, where am I going to put it? I ain't got no room. I live in a little apartment. I don't have room to stock up on years and years worth of toilet paper. And they said, but what about when it runs out? I said, watch, see how these people are buying that stuff? I said, I guarantee you it's going to run out. It did. It did. Every single store in our community, the Walmart, all the big box stores, everything, they were wiped out. No toilet paper. Well, fortunately, I know a couple of guys that are involved with the supply chain for Walmart and some of these other stores. And talking with those guys, they said, it's not that we don't have toilet paper for them to go put out on the shelves. We can't ship it fast enough and get it on the shelves fast enough. And they were right. They pull a pallet of toilet paper out on the floor. They don't even get a chance to put it on the shelves. These crazy people are filling their carts and buying it all. Well, then when the toilet paper ran out, all of a sudden all the Kleenex are gone. Oh, well, if you can't use toilet paper, we'll use Kleenex. So they bought every stinking roll of Kleenex they could get their grubby little hands on. Well, then Kleenex were gone. Next thing you know, there goes all of the paper towels, rolled paper towels. They're gone. Well, because of the bug thing, then hand sanitizer, wipes, and I didn't care. Some of these wipes aren't disinfecting wipes. They're just wet ones, just to wash your hands a little with it, because they don't disinfect. It says right on the package that they don't disinfect. Oh no, they're all sold out. Well, you can wipe with those too, you know. I mean, for God's sakes, it all started wiping out. Then they moved to the food and they started wiping out all the canned goods. You couldn't buy a stinking can of soup for months because they couldn't keep it in stock and on the shelves because they put out 6 or 8 cases of canned soup and one customer will come up, fill his whole damn cart with it, and off he goes. The whole thing. Well, there's a lot of people doing that. People are like lemmings. They see one running, they all start running with him. Next thing you know, the one that's running, they didn't realize had screws loose, and he jumps off a cliff, and they all go off the cliff with him. And that's what was happening is people were being reactionary until things ran out. Then they were in a panic. They went from reactionary to panic. Hi, Joe W. Life. Great to see you, buddy. So once they hit the panic mode, they started buying other things that were unnecessary. I was so glad to see finally things calm down, right? They finally calmed down. Now what do you see? Talking to a few folks at Walmart, they're seeing it start again. This time it's not because of the virus. It's because of inflation. They said, you watched that pack of toilet paper that now costs twice as much as we paid for it before the virus is now going to cost us twice as much after the virus because of inflation. So they're all trying to buy it at the virus price so that they don't have to pay the high inflation price. And people don't realize that they've artificially created this nasty demand for all these items. Our retailers can't keep up with it, and they can't keep it on the shelves. It's not that it couldn't be produced and put there. They just can't keep up with the panic. The virus and the inflationary panic combined is killing retailers in trying to keep stock. It's making some people a lot of money. And here's what I don't like is this. There's people that are panicking and saying, but what do we do when things run out? You're going to do whatever you have to do. No, Joe, it's that snap tailbone of mine, buddy. He's asking if the roids are acting up. No. My tailbone's still not healed. That usually takes a couple months for a busted tailbone to get kind of comfortable again. Hey, Raven, it's great to see you. Hey, Strawberry Shortcake's in the house. It's great to see you, girl. Lizzie Ann. But Loderman's in the house too. Awesome. But I have to say that I don't panic over when things run out. And I'm going to lean just for a few minutes on the prepper side of things. Now, I've got a lot of friends that are true preppers. Now, mind you, we're turning the clock way back again. In the early and mid 1980s, I was a serious prepper. I invested thousands of dollars into foodstuffs, along with a bunch of friends of mine. We had at that time, at those prices, we had well over $10,000 worth of food supplies put together and put up. But nobody ever, what I did was I was smart. I said, well, I'm leaving the area, so I would never have the ability or chance to tap into any of those food supplies. Would you guys like to buy them from me? Otherwise, I'm going to take them and put them out on the open market. Well, my partners at the time, they bought my share of the supplies. Last year, and it was sick, and I talked about it in the stream once. I got word that all those supplies had exceeded 30 years since we had put them all up, right? They were all shot, generally shot. If they hadn't spoiled, the flavor quality was terrible and nasty. So the owners, they all got together and agreed. They dug this huge trench and they put, at today's value, they figured $23,000 worth of food in that trench and buried it. It's going back to Mother Nature. It's trash. What a waste of money. All because we were panicking over what to do when things run out. Now, we would have been much wiser to have a year's worth of food for everybody and eat off of it and replace it month after month. Just keep rotating it. Always have 12 months worth and eat the 13th month and then replace the first month. Just rotate like that. That would have been wise. That would have been much smarter. That would have been a cleaner prep move. Now, how do I prep today? My pantry, at the rate I eat, I calculated it this fall, well, late this summer when I moved back home from camp. I looked at all my foodstuffs, made a full list. What's in my pantry? Eventually you get where it's not too colorful of a meal, but what I've got in my pantry will keep me going, eating at the same level I eat right now for 6 months. I got 6 months worth of food in my pantry. I've got 3 months worth of bug out food. I'm not going to tell you where that is. But I don't aspire to prepping for specific crises because I just know my luck after over 60 years that if I prepared for a major flood, we'd have a major drought. If I prepared for a major drought, we'd end up having a major flood. And I just wish I would have bought a boat. If I planned on a nasty, nasty earthquake, we'd have an ice age instead. That's the way, that's it. The thing is now we've looked at every possible scenario of all these apocalyptic ends of the world and what will cause things to run out. And people, and I feel bad because to a degree they're all reacting. They're not thinking about it. They're just reacting. Hey, Kathy Gahan, great to see you. That's all right. Totally understand, Kathy. My heart goes out to you, girl. My heart and prayers. E-Waste Mike, great to see you. Yeah, he's got 2 years of Schwans in his freezer. If he's got 2 years worth of Schwans the way E-Waste Mike eats, that Schwans, he's not telling the truth unless he's got at least 15 freezers in his basement. That boy can't. He'll wipe out a whole freezer of Schwans in a matter of a couple weeks. I am more inclined, and I encourage people all the time to be generally prepped, generally prepared. There's some things you need to think about. Do I have enough food to get by for a few months, 2-3 months? You know, I might have to watch my diet, but do I have enough food to get through for a few months? Do I have a way to make sure I've got clean water for drinking? Well, that's something I see preppers doing all the time. Man, I know a guy not far from me here that has, this is no kidding, he's got 1,000 gallons of water in these food safe barrels, sealed barrels in his basement. And I asked him, why do you have 1,000 gallons down there? He said, well, by the time you think of, you know, water you're going to drink, water you're going to use for cooking, you know, making coffee or just cooking food, water you're going to use for washing your dishes, washing yourself, you know, watering the plants and stuff. And I go, are you bloody mad, man? What are the odds of us having a drought to the point that you need 1,000 gallons? And how long will that last you through all of that? And when he told me how long it's going to last, I told him, I said, okay, so you got 1,000 gallons of water, and guess what? With his family size, if all they treated that water as was potable water, water you're going to consume, put in the mouth, that would be drinking or prepping food and the like. I said, you got enough water there as potable water for 10 years. No, actually, that'll only last me about a year. I said, yeah, because you're going to take baths with it. Are you crazy, man? You can take a different water source, filter it, yeah, and basic filter it, not filter it for every possible contaminant, every single virus and bacteria, and use that for washing and for general duty and for flushing your toilet. So the blind owl bushcraft and survival is saying you can never have too much water or food. That's where earlier, watching over $20,000 of prepped food get buried out in the field because it had exceeded over 30 years and it had gone bad, says they had too much food, had way too much food put up. Yeah, and Blind Owl's right. Take a look at that. He says too, your saved water should only be for drinking, and that's the way I am. And you should. And instead of putting up so much water, you put up a good, large supply of drinking water. I'm all for that, man. If you can put 1,000 gallons up, man, if you're good enough to, you got the ability to put 2,000 gallons, do it. If it's potable water, if it's drinking water. But get yourself a good filtration system, even if it's small, portable filtering systems. But get yourself some backup filtering systems in place for future potable water. Okay? Be practical. Be practical about it. And keep in mind, if a crisis never comes, how much of your supplies is going to just get turned over in the ground as waste? All right. I am a firm believer in having a realistic inventory of prep and rotating it. You learn to live off of what you prepped, and you're just constantly restocking, but you're burning off all of the aged preppings. And yeah, you think about you think about how much space it takes. A nice hand pump RO filter, like a lifeboat, would serve you better. Yeah. And I've had people say, yeah, but what if your water becomes radioactive or certain chemicals that can cross-contaminate, even if you're trying to use the filter? All right, if you're going to live through life with this death wish, have at it. Just don't ask me to participate, man. If I have a major crisis, guess what? When things run out, I'm going to run out and find an alternative to it. When there's no meat at the store anymore, I know where to find it. I'm going to go out and get my meat. When there's no veggies at the store anymore, I've got plenty put up that'll get me through until the first ones that I plant produce. To me, that's the best way to be prepared in life, is be ready to accept what comes. Be ready to accept what comes and have all of the general basic things that may run out, because It's going to be very difficult to secure those items after the fact. So have some of those items well beforehand. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt. So, hey guys, that's right, Blind Owl. That's the way I live every single day, man. Yep. Blind Owl says we live every day to the fullest and enjoy every minute we have, and that's what I do every single day. Hey, I will not see anybody tomorrow night. It's Thanksgiving. I want to wish every single one of you a happy Thanksgiving. My next show will be on Friday. It'll be another Sty Times. Watch the end clip, and you'll see what the topic is. And there's a lot of folks that would be able to relate to the topic for this coming Friday. And then I'll be live Sunday for the Sty Story Sunday. So I hope to see you all there. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. You folks are what make the show possible. And I hope to see you all soon. And like I said, enjoy every bite of turkey tomorrow, guys. Turkey, ham, pork, beef, whatever you're having, enjoy it. And be thankful that you could put that on your own table there. Till the next time, guys, Sty loves you, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks for being at Sty Times.